All right, finals week. Tough week around here in probably every school there is. So the problem that I always hope for is that I'm always hoping for finals to be early, and unfortunately, we have our biggest day is Thursday, and some still on Friday. So the academic gods weren't looking out for us in that respect, but we do get some time each day. We'll be spacing out. Other than Thursday, we'll be practicing just at different times, morning, noon, and once later on in the day. So we'll get it done, and that'll be good. We've played 10 games, which means we're a third of the way through. And looking at our team, I explained it to you guys the other day. Hard to believe we're leading the nation in field goal percentage defense by more than a little, and yet our three-point percentage defense is not ranked very high, although that one, a half a point could mean 50 spots, so it's not life-threatening. Our rebound after that Duke performance has really cranked up. We're a lot better there. Last 4 or 5 games, I think we're averaging 11.5 turnovers a game. We're getting that number down. We still got to improve on our movement offensively. Thought we did a much better job in the last game in that respect as far as, Bridges taking it to the hole more. We had better spacing. Cassius has been, dynamite now of staying in the play, where last year he was always way back, moving around the three-point line. Now he's in there at that three-point line and getting shots from there. That's been a great improvement. We do have to improve on our three-point percentage defense, and I think still on our turnovers. Even though we've limited them, there's still been some ridiculous turnovers that I hope to change since that North Carolina game. Oakland, they got 3 guys averaging almost 20 points a game, and all of them have given us problems somewhere. None more at Illinois than here, and of course, the other 2, Martez Walker and Hayes from right here, have been good players there. From Martez a couple years and Hayes all 4 years. It's no surprise to me that Campy calls us their best team. They've got to get, had to get through some injuries and that eligibility issue with Hayes, which I still don't understand. I thought that was kind of poor. I felt bad for him. But with that being said, the last 4 games now, I think they're at 100%, and they attempt 25 threes a game. That's something. We've had some great games with them over the years. It's an awesome opportunity for us, to play in Detroit at that arena against a quality team. Should make for a great day of sports. Michigan playing Detroit, us playing Oakland, and the Lions playing the Steelers. If you're a sports nut, what a better place to go, what a better time to be there. I was on the Big Ten conference call this morning, and even though it hasn't been a great start for the league as far as in general, I think some things to take note of, that one thing our league has done in the last 2 years, I thought, and a compliment to the league, has been, I think a lot of teams are playing a lot better schedules than we used to. We did not play as well. We've got some marquee teams in Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, who have predominantly, and there's been coaching changes at a couple of them, and there's been, in Wisconsin's case, a huge loss in personnel, and then, 2 very good players, a freshman and a sophomore, the sophomore being Trice. I talked to his dad, who's got to have surgery now on a Jones fracture in his foot. So he was very young to start with, other than Hap, and now he's got the injury bug. So not making excuses for the league, but this league has also been one where Nebraska beats a Boston College, who beats Duke. I mean, are there any answers to any of these things that are going on? I think that with the quality of coaches, you're going to see some of these teams get better and better. Indiana took Duke right to the wire. Ohio State has played pretty well. Michigan's playing pretty well, just beating UCLA. Penn State has been playing pretty well in a lot of games. I think a lot of teams are having the same problem that we have, that I've complained about. I think the focus has been a little more up and down across the whole nation, evident by 5 teams in the top 10 losing to 5 unranked teams this past week. Questions?
Tom, every team is different. They all have their own personality. Some guys, you got to put your boot up their rear. Some got to back off. As a coach who's sustained it for so long and had so much success, is that part of the fun? Is each year it's different?
You know, as sick of a question as it is, and it is a sick question, Hondo, because it almost makes you say that sometimes you got to be a little crazier than others, but it is so true. You know, I mean, I didn't have 10 kids, and my wife had 11 in her family, but I think you talk to a lot of families that have more than 2, and they say, wow, this guy, you know, was this way, and this one's completely different, you know. There is some truth to that, and there's really truth to, usually controversy leads to good things. I mean, I hate to say that because I don't want to manufacture it, even though I had an assistant that once said, if there is no controversy, create some. You know, that when you have some with a player, it usually does what our shirts say. It makes you have a meeting, it makes you talk, it makes you listen, and you usually get a lot out of that. And both the player and the coach. And the way I do it here, 90% of my meetings are the whole team. So they get something out of it. So some of it's done for preventative management, and sometimes it's crisis management, you know. But it's been really good most of the time to see a player that has deficiencies that you can help make him better at, that helps him live the dream that you get to live. And that is the best part of coaching, by far. It's I think it would be boring if everybody just said, yes, sir. You know, as much as I love Tom, I don't know if I could coach 12 of them, you know. So sometimes the, you know, the spontaneity of things, it's not all bad. Because you know what it does? It keeps me sharp, too. You know, I'm not right all the time either. And it makes me rethink, you know, not only what I'm doing, but it makes me rethink what era I'm in. You know, to me, an era is about 5 years. You know, to most people, it's 10 years. In sports, dealing with 17 to 22-year-olds, it's always 5 years. So every 5 years, I've kind of got to readjust something. And yet, the standard stuff stays the same, but maybe the way it's said or, you know, the way it's done is different. So kind of a bad question, good question, because I think it is one of the fun parts of my job, especially when you see it go from rags to riches, which has happened more than a few times.
Kind of focus on one of those guys, Cassius. You know, with him right now, he's hitting so many threes and shooting so well from out there. I guess where's the balance you want with him? It seems like he's maybe just last game, but not attacking the rim as much. But what kind of balance you want when you have a guy that's shooting that hot from outside?
Well, the two things, you know, one of the things we've done a little bit more, we talked about at the beginning of the year, is we've played him and Tom together, which almost makes him a .2 guard, you know. But we can use him coming off screens. I think it's you're not going to see as much penetration as you saw last year, because for the most part now we have 2 bigs in there a little bit more, even though at times Jaren can be a stretch guy. It causes a little more congestion in there, and I do want to balance, but all kidding aside, I mean, right now Cassius has been as consistent a player as we've had. You know, again, went through the film of the last game, and then the difference in him defensively on ball screens in that this year compared to last year is enormous. And so he's been consistent on both ends. We'd like to see him push it a little more in the break, and there maybe you can get some of those penetrating things. In the half court, we are going to work on him coming off ball screens a little bit more than we've done, because I think he's by far the best at it, and he'll make good decisions. But remember too, whenever you have somebody that's good at something, the defense is going to try to take those things away too. Like some teams have tried to trap us a little bit more. Some people have hedged and stayed a little bit more. So they're going to try to take away what he does. That's why that open court stuff is so valuable to him. And he's got his hands on the ball 90% of the time, and is going to have his hands on it 90% of the time in those positions.
Can you put the rim protection? Can you characterize what that means for you guys? I mean, you're going to break the single game blocks record at some point. It's pretty much every night you're close to it. Like, how does that change who you are?
I'd like to tell you that I could think about it, but I'm not sure I've ever had this. And I've had a couple good shot blockers. What's his name from Muskegon? Not Didi. Didi was one too, but Drew Namick was a very good shot blocker, and those are probably the two best I had. Steginger was when I was an assistant. But we've got more than just Jaron, even though Jaron's a force. But Miles can block shots, and he's got pretty good timing. Gavin has done it, and Nick Ward has done it in a different way. He's actually improving his defense in that respect too. And when I start seeing 12 and 13 block shots, I'd like to egotistically tell you, yeah, I know how to do that. I don't. I haven't been in that position before, but I'm starting to realize it's more valuable than I even thought. Most of the time when you have a good shot blocker, he's a guy that just stands in a lane and, Wilt Chamberlain blocks shots. Jaron Jackson's a guy who can move and move around. Miles moves around. Gavin moves around a little bit more. Nick doesn't as much. But so we've had that makes, to me, our shot blocking more versatile and more important. And I got to say that's probably the reason for our great defensive field goal percentage. If there's 10, 12, 13 shots that are taken that don't even get to the rim, that increases your field goal percentage by a lot.
Trickle down with Miles on the wing, able to block and help the smaller guys versus having playing the
him at the four. Yeah, I think it does, because he can block shots. He's blocked a few from behind. He's blocked a few from helping. Our biggest adjustments are still, Miles, when I say learning how to play the three, trust me when I say the position's not that much different than he played last year. It wasn't like he was a post-up player. But biggest part is who's he guarding. The second biggest part is how he's coming off screens in that now. And I thought, that was the first game, I think if you asked him, he was 100% healthy since the little sprain. And little sprains, when you're in his position, take on a little bit different meaning, because he's got everybody in his ear telling him what to do and how to handle it. And so I feel for him on that. But I thought that was the best he looked at, putting the ball on the floor and doing those things, which is some of the adjustments he has to make. Blocking shots, I think you're going to see him even more aggressive now that he's feeling great.
Tom, I want to ask a couple questions about the Kithier situation from last week. First of all, if you just had any reaction to the decision, and second of all, if he is held out for the whole year, what can he do to kind of keep that development going if he's not in competitive games?
Well, to me, there's a lot of things that still have to happen. I mean, when I say this, as transparent as I am, trust me what I'm saying. I don't know the whole situation. I've not talked to even the family a lot lately. I'm trying to figure out. I am not crazy about the ruling that I've heard. I think we're archaic in our thinking on this. I think one way or another this is going to bring some changes to how we look at it from Michigan High School Athletic Association part. I feel like partly at blame because I think Thomas was going to leave there. I think he was going to go to a prep school. I'm not as crazy about that. I hate when the kids from the state of Michigan are all leaving because of my love for the state. And so, it was us that late said to him, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" And then he ends up at Clarkston, and sadly to my prevail. I mean, let's understand something. My assistant is from Clarkston. His dad coaches Clarkston. I recruited Dane and didn't get him. I recruited Dugan and didn't get him. Dugan and his dad went to Michigan, so I can't like either one of them, even though I love what they stand for. So get that straight, first of all. Dan Fife had zero to do with this. And, you know, early on, his name was getting dragged through like he's recruiting. Zero. And there's some rulings that I don't totally understand. I mean, I can't believe if a kid moves somewhere else, he's not going to be eligible. But there are some integral parts of all these moving parts that I'm not sure I'm understanding all of them, so I'm not going to speak on what I don't know. I'm not going to condemn Kithier, the school, MHSAA. But I do think there are, where people are struggling with it, as there's been many cases where this has happened. And for some reason, it seems a little more high security on this one. And you know me, I don't like transferring, period. Never been a fan of it. But, you know, as they say, there are extenuating circumstances. And so I don't think, you know, Dakota's a very good school, very well coached. Just didn't work out for him. Clarkston's a very good school, very, very well coached. I think he's one of the best coaches in the state of Michigan ever. And there's some good prep schools out there that wanted him. What are our situation from here? Trying to see how it plays out. Trying to look into different things like some schools have done. You know, when could he be able to come here? What could happen that way? To me, a very sad situation, because I hate, bad choice of words, but I hate when a college senior does not get a chance to go to the prom and, you know, and play basketball or do this or that. That's why I'm against some of these things and all these kids leaving. I'm not even in favor of the football rule, you know, where they come at semester, personally. Because I think you're missing out on a lot of things, and I think we have to find a way to do a better job with the rules to make it so that there are rules, but there are also adjustments to the rules that I think will take place in the future. I hope it doesn't cost him, but I just don't know enough about all of it because I didn't think it would come to this. Now that it has, and thank God I have a couple days here. If you ask me on Thursday, I might have a better answer than I do today on the whole thing, to be honest with you.
I'm back to your team. Didn't you take them to Detroit Friday night? Or
I didn't. I was out recruiting.
But your team went, right?
Yeah, team went.
Was that more Draymond related or just to see where they're playing?
It was more Draymond related, and Pistons. You know, I think he's done a great job with the Pistons, and you know, you kind of want your kids to see winning teams. It was nice that they got to see the arena, but it wasn't like they shot any baskets on it or anything. But it was one of those team-building things that the NCAA lets you do now. And thank God for my athletic director and the people at the Pistons that were able to work the whole thing out. And then for those guys to be able to spend a little time with Draymond and everybody was priceless. You know, that's, hell, I wish I could have been there and spent a little time with KD myself. But
what I'm getting at is for all your great memories at the Palace, are you kind of excited about playing downtown too?
I am. I do have some great memories of the Palace. The Palace was a great place. I missed Mr. Davidson and all the things that went on at the Palace. But I have had a chance now twice to be down there, one for the press conference when it wasn't finished. Once they gave me a tour. Tom Wilson took me around the whole thing for an hour and a half when I was down there recruiting in September, right after it opened. And if you haven't been there, have you been there, Fred?
Yeah, well, it's hockey.
Yeah, hockey. They couldn't get him to play a baseball game in there. That was the problem. Well, it is a phenomenal facility, and I laugh because, you know, I know Kid Rock was there to open it up, and they They even said during his concerts they had to tell people to get back to their seats because everybody's walking around seeing all the things. They've done a phenomenal job with that building, and I think the Pistons are playing better. I don't know if it's because of the building, but they've had a good run here, and the Red Wings are always good. And now for Michigan State, UAD, Oakland, just a great sports day for the city of Detroit. I still say Dan Gilbert and all those people have done such a great job kind of reinventing our city down there. And Little Caesars is the Ilitch family. They're all part of it. We got a lot of good things going down, and so am I excited to be there? I'm ecstatic to be there. I think it's going to be great for all of us. Unfortunately, I think we're playing a very, very, very good team, and one that is just, it's hard to look at a lot of film when they didn't have two of their guys because they're a completely different team. And you have three guys averaging almost 20 points a game. There's not many people in college basketball that have that right now.
Tom, I was wondering if you could talk about the development of Josh Langford. He's shooting 45% from the field and 41% from three, but is he the shooter that you kind of envisioned that he would be?
Yeah.
Can he drive inside more? What have you kind of seen from him?
His stats are deceiving because I think he's a better player than those stats. He's been shooting it well from the three, which is good. From the field, he was shooting it really well. He had he's had a couple bad games that hurt that. And I think including the first game of the year, I think he was 1 for 12, so it's been skewed a little bit, or 0 for 12. But where he's really improved, he's a better defender by a long shot. He's a better rebounder. He's starting to take some pride in his rebounding, and he's doing a better job of that. He's really become a guy that we can rely on to run that lane, and I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be right up there in that 15, 16, 17 points a game area as we turn it over less, get more shots. We're getting more shots than we ever got here at 58 or 9. I'd like to get that into the mid-60s with a few more offensive rebounds, with a few less turnovers. I think we can do that. And when that happens, there's more shots for everybody. And what Josh Langford has better than any player I've had here, and that's a pretty good statement. He might have the best one-dribble mid-range pull-up shot of anybody that I've ever had. And that is an art. Everybody talks about now, it seems like everybody works on the threes or the dunks. I heard Michael Jordan, I heard Steve Smith talk about the mid-range game. It's getting lost, and if you have that art, you have something special. He has an incredible mid-range game. He's gotten better with the ball, which will get him to drive more. I think he, Miles, all those guys have to drive more to get to the free throw line because they're all 80-some%. 85% and up free throw shooters. So very pleased with the progress Josh has made. As you know, Josh is an unbelievable kid, but he's made progress in almost every aspect of the game, not just his scoring.
Two questions for you. When you look at your roster, Tom, you have two significant players from your last Final Four on the bench, in Schilling and Tom. Is this the deepest team that you've ever had, and how does that bode well for a long season?
The 05 team was pretty deep in guards. I mean, it was Shannon Brown and Ager and Chris and Alan Anderson, and I think Neitzel was on that. But we didn't have as much depth. That's when we brought Tran in from football. We had Paul David. We didn't have as much depth inside. But this team, not real thick on the guards, but decent, especially with Kenny coming back and can kind of swing to both positions. And then inside, we probably have the most depth we've ever had that could play. As Ben, Ben's still struggling at times. It was funny because the last game, he made a couple of turnovers, which isn't like him. But he's getting more comfortable, so he's his brain's telling his legs where to go, and his legs are telling his brain where to go. And we got to get to the point where those two mesh a little bit better. So I'd say this is maybe the deepest playing group I've ever had. Legitimate playing group. Playing group is guys you could play on a regular basis. And because we still have a guy like Xavier, who I think can and will be playing more and more and more. But he's done a great job of biding his time and realizing that he's getting better every day. And thank God for Xavier. He's been great too.
And the second question is, you've had seasons where you had a Paul Davis or a Deontay, but with all the depth you have, does this really put DJ even more on a national spotlight? Because you're such a guard-driven team, I think that's hurt him in the past in his quest maybe to be a head coach, but I think he's really getting to show off his ability this year.
I think that's very true. He's got his hands full. He's got 6 guys down there sometimes, when Braden is there. And if we put Kenny down there, I mean, he sometimes he has more bigs than we have guards. And what's been good for me is I feel more comfortable too, because there's been a game or two when everybody wonders why certain guys aren't playing, that he's telling me not to play him or to play him. And that's good, because he's kind of in a football way their position coach. And I see those guys are getting better, We're getting Jaron more in the post now. That's going to be the next phase of things we got to do. What I liked about doing those things is we get our guards driving a little bit more, our posts getting the ball down there, and all of a sudden we're getting to the free throw line 31 times like the last game. We get to that free throw line in the mid-20s, we'll really be improving as a team, especially if we're shooting well from the line. So, so there's compliments to go to DJ and pressure to go to DJ, and that's good, because I think he's definitely prepared for that and definitely deserves, the accolades of those bigs constantly improving.
Tom, I know, obviously you and Greg Campy go back a ways. I remember a couple years ago when they came close to beating you guys, and that he didn't hide the fact that was really hard on him, and how much a win like this could mean to his program. I guess just talk a little bit about him, what he's done there, and the fact that they play these games like this that are such, I mean, it's so big for them.
Yeah.
To know that your team's got to get ready for a team like that.
Yeah, and that makes it so hard on me. So I don't know why in the hell I keep doing it. But I do, because I have great respect for him and his program, and I think we played him 14, 15, how many times? A lot. That's 12, 14, 15 times. That means Matt doesn't know, and I like catching him on that. So that's why I have. We have played him a lot. We've had some good games with him. Of course, we had the one great game with him when we were ranked 1 in the country, and that game when Valentine was out, but still, it was their guard put on a hell of a show down there, and it was great in the Palace. It was great. I'm hoping that they'll pack this place too, because it hasn't been packed as much. It is sold out. I mean, how cool is that? And of course, that's going to be big for them. But where I'd like to see if our team is maturing, I hope it's really big for us too, because we get a chance to play downtown Detroit. We get a chance to play, or Van Gundy leads the Pistons. We get a chance to play in a place that if we win enough, we could be playing there in March. I mean, there's so many good things for us too, and we get to beat a quality team if we can win that game. It's a team that I expect in the NCAA tournament to put a little pressure on my friend, and I think deservingly so, because I think they got a good enough team to get there. So it's not just a big win for his program now. It could be a damn good win for our program too. And I want to see if our team is maturing to the point that we understand that.
So we got 10, 15 minutes left. We can either keep on doing questions here or have some fun with off the record roundtable.
Go ahead, Fred. I'll get you last one. Two quick ones.
We're going to find out in about 3 minutes if you're number 1 or not.
That's what I was just about to
It
ask.
is.
Number
It's
2.
not.
Both.
All right. Is that good news? The distractions coming. Your favorite thing? Distractions when you're number 1.
If you're number 1 or number 2, I mean, doesn't surprise me either way. I'm sure Greg is more disappointed than I am, because I'm sure he would have loved to have us come in there as 1. But if he beats the number 1 team or the number 2 team, it's going to be damn good for his program, so he shouldn't worry about that either. I don't know. We haven't been 1 for a couple years, so I don't know what kind of distractions it's bringing. There's enough on this team already that I don't think it'll bring any more distractions, but it doesn't totally surprise me. Villanova's playing well, though they struggled yesterday too. I mean, as I said, if we don't win by 20, we're struggling now. So we have to deal with that as it is, and that's great. So not, as they say, it's not where you are in December. It's where you are in April that matters, and we'll just keep working towards that goal for ourselves.
That was it.
That was it? All right, well, let's go have some real fun.